humans are changing the way that they make decisions as a result of their interactions with AI.
Part of my meaning and purpose in my life is going through that hard work of writing a book. And when I saw how effortlessly this thing could create something that was pretty good, it made me wonder, like, what is my future? If you're a curious person and you use AI to fuel your curiosity, you're going to thrive. But if you use it as a crutch to only get the answer to pass a test, you're going to wither. If you start to rely on AI in an emotional way where you're losing connections or even the ability to relate with humans, it becomes a crutch. That's a negative. What the futurists are worried about, if we turn over too much of our skills, then we're going to lose important functionality as human beings. One of these futurists went so far as to say AI is going to be so capable, it's like self-imposed dementia.
My special guest is a futurist and the author of lots of books, including How AI Changes Your Customers, Marketing Rebellion, and Belonging to the Brand. His podcast is The Marketing Companion. Mark Schaefer, welcome to this show for the first time. How you doing?
Well, I am great. And, I always have a discussion with you circled on my calendar because I'm so excited. We always have such a good time. You always get my wheels turning.
I feel like this has got to be at least the 10th time I've interviewed you across one of my shows.
Yeah.
So let's just start with your journey into AI, because obviously there's a story there. So I'd love to hear it.
Well, I'm a curious person, and there's nothing I think you could be more curious about right now than AI. And when right before ChatGPT came out, I had finished writing a book called Belonging to the Brand.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I did to test it was write an essay based on one of the themes from this book in the voice of author Mark Schaefer. And doggone it, in 3 seconds, it did a perfect job. And I pretty much could have used this thing right in the book. And it was one of the most depressing moments of my life.
When was this? Was this like December or January after it had come out?
It was November. It was
November 30th was the day it launched. It must have been.
Yeah, well, maybe it was like December 2nd or something then. But I certainly tried it right away. And it really was a wake-up call, because part of my meaning and purpose in my life is going through that hard work of writing a book. And when I saw how effortlessly this thing could create something that was pretty good, it made me wonder, like, what is my future? What is my role? Now, since then, I've sort of figured it out, and I've kind of put away a lot of that existential fear to think about how AI can make me a better communicator, a better author, a bolder, more creative consultant, someone that has a bigger impact on the world. So I'm very excited about it, but it definitely has been a journey.
Well, and just share a little bit about like how you're using AI now, because obviously those who have been following you and or us together for a while know you as a guy who's mostly been positioning himself as a marketing strategist and futurist. So just out of curiosity, like maybe just mention a little bit about like what you've been focusing on, and maybe just a smidgen of a story about why the heck you wrote this latest book.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, I mean, I use AI now almost every hour of the day because I'm curious about things and I want to learn things. And one of the things I found, Mike, and maybe you've observed this too, is that a lot of people only use AI as like a glorified search engine.
Right.
And I mean, that is kind of important. But I teach at Rutgers University. And one of the things I found is that even young people, even mid to senior level marketing executives really weren't trying to explore the edges of this thing. So I've been teaching a class on how to use AI to create a new business from ideation all the way to, specs for manufacturing. And it's just amazing. It's breathtaking what this thing can do. I mean, for me, I think like you to a large extent, I spend a lot of time alone. I'm pretty much a solopreneur, and so AI has become my companion, my confidant. It's great for brainstorming, and I've sort of come so far in my journey that I've kind of taken the ultimate risk. I've created a Markbot. I've uploaded, if you can believe this, I mean, I uploaded all my books, all my blog posts, all my podcasts, my speeches, my workshops, my strategic frameworks into a custom GPT, and I'm unleashed it on, on the world. I'm not trying to monetize it. It's just an experiment because I'm at a point in my life where I want to teach in a bigger way. I want to mentor in a bigger way. And so it's like, this is an experiment to see, can I have a bigger impact in a positive way on the world? And and it's kind of working.
Love it. Since you're, obviously teaching and talking and doing, what do you see as one of the biggest misconceptions right now when it comes to AI?
I'll tell you, Mike, it's delegating the work. And what I mean by that is, look, I've had executive positions at big companies, and what leadership does is they say, okay, I'm looking at the big picture and I am going to delegate all the doing to the people underneath me. And I understand that. That's kind of been a standard operating procedure for leadership for a long time. But here's what I think people need to grasp. You don't really know the potential of these tools until you do it, until you can really push the edges of this thing. And one of the wisest pieces of advice I was ever given in my career was by the amazing marketing management guru, Peter Drucker, who was my teacher for 3 years. He said, being an effective leader, you don't have to have all the right answers, but you have to have the right questions.
Hmm.
And in this AI era, you can't have the right questions until you know what's possible. And you can't know what's possible until you try this stuff. So roll up your sleeves, experiment, talk to people who are into this and say, what should I try? Should I try Notebook LM? Should I try Midjourney? Should I try Sora? Or should I try, Perplexity? Find out some of these main tools and spend a couple hours pushing the edges of these things so you could better direct your company and your team to go deeper.
Cool. Okay, so we're here to we're going to dig into how AI is changing human behavior. But before we go there, I want to know, from your perspective, what is the upside when we, marketers, entrepreneurs, creatives, creators, when we understand that this behavior shift is happening? What are the benefits? Because I really want people. We're going to unravel some of the challenges, but I really want to have a carrot out there so people understand. Like, if you can grapple with this thing, it's got some upside. What is the upside?
There's an upside and a downside to every aspect of every type of technology. And unfortunately, what we see in the media and the press too often is the scary stories and the downside. But there is an upside. And I try to strike a very careful balance in my book. So a mentor told me once that there's no such thing as a weakness. There's just an overdone strength. And I think that's the way it is with AI. So if you're using AI like I am to sort of amplify my thinking, to help me be a bigger and bolder professional, awesome. If you're a curious person and you use AI to fuel your curiosity, you're going to thrive. But if you use it as a crutch to only get the answer to pass a test, you're going to wither. So that's the positive. That's the negative. If you use AI in a time of confusion, when you maybe I'll tell you, a little story. You know, uh, I'm trying to struggle with where I go forward as a writer because I love the writing, but I don't like the promotion and all the stuff that goes with a book. And I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, "Well, maybe it's not really about the writing. Maybe it's how you define creativity. Could you be happy writing without scaling it?" That was really interesting advice, right? That's the positive. But if you use AI as a therapist that starts to overrun your ethics and your values and important life decisions, if you start to rely uh, on AI in an emotional way where you're losing connections or even the ability to relate with humans, because that takes work, that takes compromise. You don't have to compromise with an AI bot. They're always going to be there for you. But if it becomes a crutch, that's a negative. So I'm very careful in the book to show both sides. And this is not a book. It's a book that's going to startle people if you're not immersed in the AI world, but it also shows the positive aspects of it and applicable, actionable ideas we can use as marketers, because I think a lot of these projections of how humans are being rewired before our eyes, they're going to come true. And as business people, as marketers, we have to understand our customers better than anybody. And if they're being rewired, we've got to know about this and start thinking about the implications now.
I love this. And I look at marketing, smart marketing, as understanding human behavior. And when you understand how human behavior shifts and changes, you have an opportunity to take advantage of it. For example, you and I both know that there was a change towards video over the last 5 or 6 years, and specifically towards shorter videos, right? And for those who really understood that and got on that bandwagon, they were able to ride that wave. Now we're here to talk about how, again, is this technology, AI, we're talking ChatGPT, we're talking Google Gemini, we're talking Claude, Grok, whatever, you pick your poison. But how are these powerful LLMs, these tools, fundamentally altering human behavior? Because this is the part of the conversation that I'm really excited about.
And I want to be clear that what I articulate in the book, this is just not like Mark Schaefer's view of the world. This comes from a very important piece of research earlier this year. Um, Elon University brought together 300 futurists, technologists, psychologists, philosophers, academics to answer one impossible question: how will AI change humanity by 2035? Well, the resulting report was amazing. And I asked the sponsors of the report, can I turn this research into a book? And I got their permission. So this is really built on the consensus ideas of 300 global futurists. So that's important to know because we don't really know where AI is going to head. Even the people, the insiders in Silicon Valley really don't know. But I think when these futurists reach consensus on some big ideas, we better pay attention. So, a couple of the ideas in the book. Number one is cognitive offloading. So, what I mean by that, and again, this is the plus and minus thing, right? So, when AI can do special tasks for us, we tend to lose our ability to do them in the future. A great example is reading a map. I haven't had a paper map in my car in 10 years, and I'm so happy about that. I can use Google Maps, I can use Waze and get to where I need to go. And there's a probability that there's a generation of people that don't know how to read maps. They're being,
Well, they might not even know what roads they're supposed to take, even though they've taken them 1,000 times, right?
yeah, I mean, you don't even need to know road signs, really. I mean, so we're being de-skilled. An example I give, and this is very natural in some ways. I mean, before I got married, I always did the taxes. When I got married, my wife said, I like to do the taxes. Now, she's been doing the taxes for years. If I had to do the taxes right now, I'd be lost. I've been de-skilled in that area. So there's a positive to that, right? Because it gives me time to do other things. Same with AI. What the futurists are worried about, and this is the crutch part, this is the over-functioning part, where if we turn over too much of our skills, then we're going to lose the ability, important functionality as human beings. One of these futurists went so far as to say he sees in the future AI is going to be so capable as we adopt AI, it's like self-imposed dementia, this
Mm.
cognitive offloading. Another person said he sees in the future deep thinking is what the weird people do.
And by the way, we should distinguish. You're not talking about deep research, right?
No.
This is an AI phrase. Deep thinking. You mean actually
Yes, thinking deeply.
sitting in a corner in your favorite chair and actually contemplating something. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Because well, here's the most profound quote in the entire book. I met this young woman. She's a junior in college, and she said, "I use AI every day." And I met her at a community event. I said, "I'd like to interview you for my book." So when I called her up to interview her for the book, she said, Mark, when you asked me for an interview, my first thought was, I must have ChatGPT give him the answers.
Wow.
She said, it made me realize I've crossed a line. I use ChatGPT to do text, to do emails, really to communicate to the world. She said, have made myself dumber. Where am I? And she said, all my friends are adopting this the same way. So we begin to see this de-skilling, this cognitive offloading that I mean, your mind can go a million directions of what this means for business and what this means for marketing.
Well, look, and just let me just pause you for a
Yeah.
second there. Here's what it might mean for marketers and content creators. If it's true that we're relying on AI to give us insights and answers, we better make sure that our company and our brand are part of that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, yeah. And I get that. I get into that in great detail in the book, both online tactics, and the general idea so far is that good marketing, that's going to show up in AI too. I mean, there are a few nuances, the things that are different. AI doesn't seem to like backlinks like traditional.
And I just realized we're going to get into this in a few minutes, but that's just, I'm planting a seed there.
Okay, we'll get into more detail on that.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, let's go into like another one of the ways humans are being rewired, and another idea would be empathy. So the good part of empathy is that human beings, it's being shown, often prefer the empathy demonstrated by an AI bot, because the AI bot is always patient and it never gets tired and it kind of knows the right things to say, and you're sure it can be very helpful. But if you rely on that as a crutch, if you begin to create an emotional dependency, we're now seeing 31% of Gen Z say, I have an AI bot that is a friend. 8% say, I have an AI bot that is a romantic relationship. Now, again, if you're not immersed in this
Wait, what
world,
percent did you say that was?
8.
Oh, I thought you said 80. I was going to be like,
No,
we're
8.
with 80.
Yeah, yeah, 8. Yeah, if it's 80,
We're in trouble.
if it's 80%, I retire. I'm announcing my retirement. No, but 8% still seems a lot, especially like, again,
Yeah.
not immersed in this world and haven't looked up to see what's really happening here. Now, think about one of the implications for marketing and business. Okay. What are we trying to do? We're trying to create customers. We're trying to create a great appeal that will get people to pay attention to us, hopefully buy something, and maybe even someday be loyal to us. I'm working on a blog post right now, Mike, that's going to be called "We're All in the Diaper Business Now." And what I mean by that is that I have a new grandson. He's a beautiful, wonderful, angelic child, and he is an expert pooper. He goes through a lot of diapers. Now, if you're a company selling diapers, you're not marketing to the end user. That's not the decision maker. You're marketing to mom and dad. Now, here's what's happening. Increasingly, the trust in AI is going up, even to view it as a friend, even to view it as a romantic relationship. Trust in AI is going up. They are often the decision maker, and not just small things. Especially younger people are turning to AI. What kind of car should I buy? What college should I go to? What city should I move to? Who should I marry? And so uh, we have to start thinking about how AI is becoming the decision maker. It's like marketing diapers. Somehow we've got to show up in these results. It's different than Google, right? Because Google is more like a suggestion. It's like, oh, well, here's 5 links or here's 10 links you can check out. Of course, AI is increasingly being embedded in the Google results as well. So, I mean, that's going to end up the same way. And so it does suggest a certain amount of urgency to understand how this is going to play out. And of course, big announcement last week, ChatGPT is embedding e-commerce right into their answers. And starting out small with, like Shopify and eBay and some other, it's not like Amazon yet or Walmart or something like that. But I mean, that's coming. And so profound implications for the marketer.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say so far is that um, there is this mental offloading, you call cognitive offloading or de-skilling, that is happening right now with people that are over reliant on AI. And there's also this desire for the empathy that AI provides. One other observation that I'll make, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but good communicators are becoming better communicators as a result of understanding prompting. I am finding that actually when I prompt an AI, if I use the same level of detail when I communicate with a human, I actually get better results. And I'm wondering whether or not AI is teaching us the importance of context and clarity when we communicate. At least those of us that are decent communicators, I feel like are becoming better communicators as a result of understanding that the way we communicate with AI has a lot to do with the results that we get. That's just a side observation. I am not a futurist. It's just something I've noticed. I'll throw it out there. Now, I want to ask this question. So, you kind of hinted at the results a little bit, which is that humans are changing the way that they make decisions as a result of their interactions with AI. And I want to know what your thoughts are on this because I believe this is something you might have addressed inside the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm so glad you brought this up because I'm really interested and passionate about this, and I think marketers are overlooking an important aspect of this. So there are really two parts of influencing this decision. One is online and one is offline. So the online piece, this is where we get into the tactics. This is where we get into the strategies around content. How does content show up with AI? What are the differences? I mentioned briefly that AI doesn't really care about backlinks so much. It's looking at validation of what context you're being mentioned in other parts of the web. So here I am on your show. Maybe AI will pick up, oh my gosh, Mark Schaefer was on Mike Stelzner's show. That's kind of a vote for him. It's a social validation that to earn his way onto a popular show like this, he must kind of have some expertise. So that sort of contextual relevance seems to be more important than backlinks. The other thing, and I think this is going to be a struggle, is you and I both are creating content for an audience. We're creating something that's compelling and interesting and maybe even a little entertaining. AI doesn't care. AI doesn't, it doesn't want to be entertained. It never gets bored. It never gets tired. It just wants the data. It just wants the details. Endless, endless, endless details. And so how do we bring that together? And the way I'm handling it, and I'm not saying that this is for everybody, but I think it's two audiences. I am not going to compromise to my audience. I have a blog audience. I have a podcast audience. I have an audience for my books. I will never let them down. My content will always be worth your time. It will always make you think. Now, I think you need a separate content strategy for AI because AI is the customer and that customer has a different expectation. So it almost suggests we need a separate content stream. And again, I'm not being prescriptive here, but that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Okay, wait, real quick before you go too far down this trail, because I know where you're going. I want you to back up a little bit and talk about how people are making decisions with AI, because I feel like we might have slightly kind of gone over that. Because I feel like this is going to connect to that when you explain how that works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about cognitive offloading, but we haven't really talked about the way people are actually using AI to make their final decisions.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit because you were talking about how you had this when we were prepping about you had this trip to Paris and all this kind of you know what I mean?
Thanks for bringing me back down to earth. See,
Okay.
I'm on a roll, man. I'm on a
We'll,
roll.
we'll come back. I'm putting a pin in it, but we're going to come back to that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, this is a story I tell a lot to kind of explain how things are going. So, two interesting things about this trip to Paris. So, I was going to give a speech over in Europe. I thought, you know what? Uh, I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to spend 5 days in Paris. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, I love art. I love history. I love music. I love nature. Plan a 5-day trip for me in Paris and tell me where I should go and what time I should do it. And give me restaurants along the way. And also tell me how to get to everywhere, the metro stops, and tell me everything. So it laid out this entire plan. And it was fantastic. One other little nuance.
Did you just go with it? Not even checking it? I'm just curious. Like, did you just like
I went with it 100%. I went with it.
side note, what does that tell us about
I went with it, and it was absolutely stunningly perfect.
really? Go ahead.
Even down to like how much time it would take to walk from a museum to the train station, right? And like go this hour instead of that hour. And like here was an amazing one. So I got to go to the Louvre before, they had a theft there. And it said, look, don't go to the main entrance. Go to this other entrance that's by the subway station and you'll get in much faster.
Mm.
And it was like, wow. And it was true. So, I mean, it just looked at all the wisdom of the web. It just reads the web and gives me the best, ideas. And I followed it exactly. Kind of. So here were the two exceptions. And this is a powerful lesson, and this is the part I was hinting at, that most marketers are going to overlook because we're so obsessed typically with the tactics, with the content and the optimization and, getting in there. But what's happening offline? So it organized this whole trip for me, except I said, I want to fly Delta Airlines. So brand preference is an override. No matter what AI says, I am going to follow the brands that I love. The car companies, the hotels, the retail brands. I'm going to follow the brands that I love. And when I was walking around, I went to a store that sells like those on shoes, the cloud shoes. I mean, they're just amazing shoes. Why did I go to that store?
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Huh?
What's an on shoe? I don't even know what that is.
You have to look it up. I don't have one. I don't
Just
have.
feel really comfortable, I guess, huh? Okay.
Yeah, though they're the most comfortable shoes. And I first saw them a few years ago when I was traveling in Europe, and everybody was wearing them, and they looked so cool. I thought, well, I want to look cool, so I need all the help I can get. So, so I tried these shoes. I loved them. So I went to this. Why? I love that brand. So don't forget branding. Branding is more important than ever. It's the override. Don't get caught up in the weeds of the content strategy and forget about branding. Now, here's the other exception. I have a good friend in my marketing community, and she knows that I have to eat gluten-free. I have celiac disease, my gift from COVID. She's celiac. She said, oh, when you go to Paris, you've got to go to this bakery. It's a gluten-free bakery. It's absolutely amazing. Not only did I go there once, I went there twice. And let me tell you something. I'm always going to look for that bakery now because it was just so outstanding. Now, that was not on the itinerary. Somehow there's not enough information about that bakery to make it into the AI hit parade. But it doesn't matter because I will consider what AI tells me, but I will act on what a trusted friend tells me. Word of mouth marketing, more important than ever. So don't overlook the basics of marketing, the big strategy. Don't get caught in the weeds about how am I going to beat out 100,000 other businesses and become the recommendation on AI when you've got other strategies. You can become an override if advertising plays part of that. Brand community is a part of that.
Experience.
Personal branding, experience, branding, word of mouth. That's basic good old marketing. And so don't overlook the override aspect. And you'll probably have more success with that than beating out those 100,000 people to be the name on Mark's itinerary on a trip to Paris.
Okay, so really interesting concepts. What I'm hearing you say is that AI is helping people make complex decisions like where should I go when I'm visiting this city, or which experiences or restaurants should I visit, or dot, 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 dot. And it's really, really valuable and it's really unique. And it's allowing people, humans, to have great offline experiences with products and services and experiences. And it's not a but, it's an and. Humans still matter here, right? Because people are still going to ask their friends, they're going to ask on social, what do you prefer? And AI can help kind of work that into the model. And that's good news, right? Because it means that in some regards, it's great news actually, because if AI is going to help us make decisions and we only have so much brain power, and our friends are also going to help us make decisions because we're social creatures and we do care about social proof. We care about what other people think. If these things can come together, it can be a power play. Okay, so now we're getting to where I put a pin in it. So earlier you said, hey, there's this online world and this offline world. And you said, I'm always going to have an audience that wants to listen to my podcast or read my books or read my newsletter, and I want to serve those people.
Yeah.
Or come to my events and my experiences. So this leads us to how do we as businesses today, we're entrepreneurs or creators or marketers, how do we think through this? And you started to say, well, I wonder if we should have content for two different audiences. And that's where I cut you off. I feel like that's where we left.
Well, and again, look, I mean, there's a cottage industry emerging about figuring this out. Just like SEO, you've got Ahrefs, so you got SEMrush, and they're trying to figure out the Google thing. And now everybody's trying to figure out the AI thing, and there's specialists emerging. And so it's all developing. But we do know those customers are different. Our human customers want something that's interesting and entertaining. Our AI customer that's making decisions sometimes, like my trip to Paris, they just want data. They just want, opening times and closing times, extreme data. So an example of something that I did to try to differentiate is I created a new FAQ for my website. I didn't really have a big FAQ before. I figure if you go to my homepage, it's kind of intuitive what I do because it has like 6 big blocks. Mark's a speaker, Mark's an author, he's a consultant. But AI doesn't do so well with images. Also, Mike, at least right now, AI doesn't do so great with video and podcasts for 2 reasons. ChatGPT Sam Altman came right out and said, AI has a difficult time with facial expressions and sarcasm and tone. So we don't always get it right with video and podcasts. We prefer text. The second reason is the firepower, the expense of AI processing video or podcast is 10x compared to text.
Word. Yeah.
So these ChatGPT and all these other platforms, they are burning money. So they're not going to spend their time on video and podcasts. So the implication is transcripts. And I want to tell you something. I've been lazy with my transcripts. I've been lazy, but I am now, redoubling my efforts to create better, informative, detailed transcripts for video and podcast content on my website. In fact, I'm probably going to pay somebody to go back.
Because you want to feed the AI? Is that what?
Because you want to feed the AI. Because it might be enough for me to have a podcast episode on my website to say, I had this great conversation with Paul Raitzer. We hit these 5 points. And someone say, oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to listen to this. But that was the action that I wanted. But I have a new action that I want today. That's valuable content. And I want to get credit for that in AI. So I'm probably going to pay somebody to go back, at least a couple hundred episodes and help me create, valuable transcripts that I'll be able to put on the blog to go along with those episodes. And the other thing I mentioned is I've created this FAQ that's like really long and detailed about what I do, broken out into different categories. I don't really think humans are going to read that. Like I said, all I have to do is go to my homepage and boom, 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 you can see what I do. But AI isn't going to get it. So I created this FAQ now on my navigation bar. That's like, I just thought about what's any question someone could ask about hiring me as a speaker? What's any question somebody want to ask about coming to my retreat or, buying my books? And then I just started creating long content to answer these questions because that's what AI wants. AI wants details. It wants to know in extreme detail what you do. And so, I mean, that's one little thing I did that's sort of bot oriented instead of human oriented.
This is interesting. What I'm hearing you say is that it's much easier for AI to process text, which makes logical sense
Yeah.
because it's much more cost effective.
Hmm.
On the other side of it, we do have Google Gemini, which is rapidly becoming a powerful force not to be reckoned with. And we need to remember that Google owns YouTube.
For sure.
And if our videos are on YouTube, you can rest assured. Well, first of all, all YouTube videos have free transcripts built in. Closed captioning is effectively there. But what's even more interesting is, for sure that Google is watching all those videos. I bet you that their models are being trained on all that stuff, which is why their video models are so world class right now. So I do think you're right that this is just a processing problem today, as
Yeah.
or this in October,
think-
late October of 2025, because
I think it's a short term problem.
because pretty soon AI is going to listen and it's going to watch.
Yeah.
It's going to read.
Yeah.
So that is really good news for content creators. Talk about this a little bit, right? Because if anyone who's listening creates videos, writes articles, and or produces podcasts or any kind of audio, this seems to me that this could be a massive edge for the future of AI. What's your thoughts on this?
Massive, massive. And it gets back to one of the core points I am teaching over and over again right now, the importance of the personal brand, working on the personal brand, which is fueled by content. Let me give you a small example. I am getting customers from ChatGPT. And a woman hired me to do a consulting project. And I said, well, how'd you find out about me? She said, well, I went to ChatGPT and I said, who are the best digital marketing consultants in the world? And it gave me a list of the top 10, and you were on the top 10. And I went to your website and I liked what you do. And I saw, I could hire you. So I hired you. Now, I want to tell you a little secret. I am not one of the top 10 digital marketing experts in the world. I could name,
that, but AI doesn't know that.
I could name 10 of my friends who are smarter than me in a heartbeat. However, I show up. I have with an exception of maybe 1 or 2 weeks during COVID, I have blogged almost 1,000 weeks in a row. Every week, never miss. My podcast is in its 13th year. I've never missed an episode, not once. I've written 12 books. I create content. I engage on social media in a helpful and generous way. So that's the keys to the kingdom. It really is. Is that you sort of figure out what do you want to be known for? How do you fit in this ecosystem? And it's not about how great you are. It's how you serve. You're well aware of this, right? You are teaching. You're a teacher. You're helping them solve problems. You have a unique platform. So you're helping them solve this problem in a unique way. Boom, you've got a powerful, and you're creating content to support that. And so you're going to be all over AI because you've been doing this for years. And some people might be thinking, oh, well, how am I going to compete with all these people that have been creating content for all these years? Hey, I felt the same thing when I started, but you still have to start.
Well, and I want to say something here, folks. This is a better game to play.
Yes.
Like when you go on YouTube and you're concerned because you only got 50 or 100 or 200 or 300 views, AI could care less how many freaking views you've got.
Right.
AI is going to analyze your content and the quality of your content up against all the other content. And, it's more about the connections probably between all these things and what other people think about it, and less about the vanity metrics, because we all know some great marketers who can game the system and can get 1 million views, but it doesn't lead to anything, right? And I think this is a great equalizer in some regards, because if we can create high quality content and all of a sudden it shows up in AI, do we really care if there's 1 million views? on a video, if we're being recommended by where everyone is going for recommendations,
Yeah.
that's a big deal, right?
And let me add something else. So whenever this AI starts consuming all our content, and this created a big emotional reaction. I don't want AI to have my content. That's unfair. That's unethical. Look, there was this little app. You could put your name in there to see if your books are in AI.
One of mine is.
All of my books are in AI.
Yeah.
They didn't ask my permission. There's no attribution. I wasn't paid anything. Now, but you got to look, just like you're talking about, you got to look at the long game. You got to look at, don't you want to be in AI? Yes, you do. So here's something you can, all of your listeners and viewers can do right now. Every website has some sort of defense, some security software that's keeping the hackers out. And if it's something like Cloudflare,
Yes, that's what I have to. Yeah.
the default is keep AI out.
Mm.
All right. First thing I did when they announced that, I went to my web guy, said, toggle that off. I want AI all over my site. The economic value of content that's not seen and shared is zero. And it might seem emotional, might seem unethical, that AI is just taking all this stuff we worked so hard to create, but you gotta give it away. You have to unleash your content and put it everywhere that can create business value for you. And that includes, especially right now, AI. Like I said, the only reason I would show up on one of these top 10 lists is because I show up. I've showed up consistently. It's not too late to start. Create content, do it consistently, don't give up, and let AI in.
Mark Schaefer, author of the new book, How AI Changes Your Customers. I would imagine you can find it anywhere books are sold. If people want to connect with you on the socials, where do you want to send them? And if they want to potentially work with you, where should they go?
Well, it's really easy to find me. If you can remember, businesses grow. So you don't even have to remember my name. It's a hard name to spell, Schaefer. Uh, in fact, it's funny. Even Mark can be hard to spell. I went in a hotel. I said, my name is Mark with a K. She said, your name is Kark?
That must have been when you're in France or something.
So, Mark Schaefer. But all you got to remember is businesses grow. You can find, my books. You can find my blog, my podcast, and all my socials. And I'd love to hear from you and love to hear your ideas about what we talked about today.
Thank you, man, for coming on the show. I appreciate you, Mark.
Thank you, Michael.